Hello and welcome to Bluntly Speaking. I'm Jola and this is my sister Elisa and this is our very first podcast episode. I thought you said you blocked him. Really?
Can I be mean for a second?
He's like my best friend. What should I respond?
Okay, well, let's talk about it. On this podcast, we're going to be covering any kind of subject of interest. It's kind of going to be like that elderly sister advice.
The sisters that you did not ask for, but we are here anyways.
Exactly. So usually Elisa will ask me some questions, maybe some experiences she's had or things she's curious about, and then we'll have a chat about it and we'll go over it. So we're going to cover anything from relationships to friendships to school, any aspect of life.
Yeah, in this episode specifically, I did want to talk more from like a relationship-based angle because, you know, that's Yoda's forte. So I kind of wanted her take on specific things and advice that like I also want to know, but I feel that other people should know as well or could gain some insight from, I feel would be useful.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think this was born due to all of the yapping.
Yeah, I know. Her and I talk way too much and it's an issue. Like we will start getting into like 3-hour yap conversations.
So shall we get started? What do you have on the agenda for us today?
Okay. I want to know. Okay, first, because you're like older, I want to know if you know what an ick is and like what's your take on that?
Wait. So you introduce us from your perspective, like what you guys define as an ick.
Okay. So an ick is kind of when you are in, let's say, a relationship, or no, not a relationship because that's like kind of into deep, but when you are talking to a guy and you're on like a few dates and then he does something and you're kind of like, oh, ew. And then it kind of just completely like turns you off. It's kind of like a turn off, essentially. And I guess there's different variations of it, but I feel like sometimes people take it too far, and I feel like it shouldn't be like a definable thing that makes you want to break off the entire talking stage over something so small. And that's what I kind of think of it, because some people will be like, oh my God, thinking like he put his socks on. Like that's an ick.
Okay.
And like I think that could be like honestly a little bit ridiculous, but it's kind of on a spectrum. And some icks are like, oh, like when he said like a sexist comment, like that's an ick. Right. And I feel like that's more valid as well.
Okay, so that's interesting. I think maybe the struggle you're having is because that's a really broad, like it covers a lot of broad categories, but some things that you're describing are like really minor, maybe things that aren't sexy in the moment, right? But everybody has unsexy moments. Sometimes it could be funny, it could be something else, or maybe you just don't like it at all. That's fine too. But then on the other side of that, of what your description was, you've got situations where it's more than just unsexy. It's like a value mismatch, right? Like someone making a sexist comment is not cool, right? And you might not necessarily want to be with somebody who has a sexist or misogynistic or whatever it is mindset, right? And so in that circumstance, you might know right away from that comment that like, hey, this would not be cool with me. Like this doesn't resonate, and I don't actually want to spend a lot of time with that person. And so that makes sense. But from like, oh, like, yeah, he put his socks on weird or his toes were
So because it's so broad, do you think that the more unsexy things could be more definable as icks, and then the more like serious things like sexist comments and whatnots, then I feel like we start going into this realm of like red flags?
Okay, so it's not like people can have their own definition. It's a term that, you know, has been created for people to have an easier time to talk about relationships and to make them understandable, right? So like it's not up to me to dictate what it should be, right? Or you or whomever.
Yeah.
I think maybe it gets lost in translation when it's used so widely, right?
Okay.
And then you don't know what you're really talking about. So yeah, like some things can be like, oh, that was kind of icky, I didn't love it, whatever. Maybe I'll say something, maybe I won't, maybe I'll just let it pass. Or some things could actually be a big deal and you don't want to deal with those things.
To what extent, like, do you think they can be fixable? Like the icks or like the red flags? Like, is there like coming back from it?
So again, I think it totally depends, right? So like, let's go back to, I mean, you gave me socks, so I'm working with socks here.
Okay, let's talk about poor communication.
Okay.
Like, let's say I'm in a relationship, bro just does not know how to communicate for the life of him. And I wouldn't say like that's an ick. I feel like that's more like on the red flag spectrum, I guess. And how long can I allow that for an issue?
Okay, so poor communication, I mean, is it really a red flag? I think communication is a skill, right? And it's a skill that we pick up when we're young. However, if somebody is intentionally treating you poorly and consistently, like that could lead more into, let's say, a red flag, right? So in the sense of poor communication, like it's about how you feel, right? Like, is this person, do they have enough in terms of the way they're treating you, in terms of the way you're having fun with them, in terms of the way you're engaging with them? Like, do they have enough qualities that you actually want to still spend time with them and give them some input? Like, hey, I didn't like the way you said that, or hey, I would like to hear more of XYZ from you, right? It's really like about how you're feeling in that dynamic. Do you want to be part of, you know, this person's learning process as they learn how to be a better communicator? Are they even willing to work through it with you and learn from you?
I feel like there's also like the balance portion as well, because I remember I had a friend who was in a relationship and her boyfriend had really strict parents and she wasn't able to see him often, but like their relationship was really good, but there was like so many complicated aspects to that. And she's like, I don't even know, because like what's the point in being in a relationship if I could barely like see this man or like talk to this man? So then I remember asking her like to balance how happy she was in the relationship to like how negative it was, and to kind of like think about that as like the breaking point as well.
I think that's really cool advice that you gave, and that makes perfect sense. It's interesting because that's more of a common theme of like young relationships, right? Like
learn from the best guys.
Very humble.
I'm talking about you.
Oh shit.
Yeah, guys, I gave her a compliment and she insulted me.
I thought it was about you.
About myself. Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
But
wait, okay. I also want to know, because like there will be like fuck ups in a relationship and then people will like proceed to stay in them even though it gets like really bad. So why do people stay in toxic relationships for so long? Because I also had a friend who was in a relationship, and at first it was so like sweet, genuine, and then like, but over time like she saw like the true side of him, and then he just became like progressively worse.
No, so okay, so that's actually a very common storyline, a very common example, and that it's really unfortunate when it happens. There's layers to it, and there's multiple reasons, I would say. One of them is the attachment, right? So if it starts off really soft and really gentle and somebody's looking for a relationship, or this person makes them feel really special, you know, they kind of form an attachment and a bond. And usually if this person is going to like flip the switch, they're looking for people that might be more willing to put up with that nonsense and might be more willing to put up with them. So they are actively seeking a target, essentially, or like a person that they know is maybe softer, gentler.
But do you think sometimes
has
it's
lesser
also
boundaries?
like incompatibility, and like that's why it ends up toxic? Like it could also be toxic on both ends as well, or
Yeah,
like it's not like always like seeking like the victim, I guess, because that sounds so bad. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it depends, right? But yeah, for sure. So I think there can be situations where both people enter a pattern or a cycle. A lot of the people that I work with, that's usually the case. It's that they've entered into a negative cycle where they start bringing out negative qualities in each other, because she or
like
he
the
or
worst
whatever.
of each other.
Yeah, because you know, they might be pressing on each other's insecurities. They might be getting really defensive. They might not be getting through to each other. There could be this desperation to really be like seen by one another. And what ends up happening is that, you know, one partner will say something and the other partner will become really reactive because they don't feel seen, and then they keep pushing their point, and then the other partner becomes really reactive, and then the cycle starts to develop where there's a lot of mistrust, and so they start to kind of see the worst in each other, and it creates toxicity within the dynamic between the couple. And again, that comes from, I would say it comes from a combination of not having the communication skills, as well as not being able to really connect and to be able to let those guard down. So usually there's also like a lot of wantings to kind of like prove yourself or stand up for yourself, right? If you're not coming from a stable space or from a space of security, you're going to be really argumentative and you're going to fight back a lot, right? So it definitely does happen. It happens a lot from the toxicity in the cycle, but it can also happen in circumstances where somebody will actively seek out a person, as we were talking about earlier, that maybe doesn't have very strong boundaries, and you can tell, right? Like they just tend to be a softer person, right? They have a hard time saying no. They have a hard time speaking up for themselves. And this person could know that they are willing to tolerate with a lot of their crap. So sure, it'll start soft and gentle to build that attachment. But then as they start flipping the switch, they can end up being in a situation where they are kind of being taken advantage of.
Okay. So in the scenario where it's both people and it's not like purposely being sought out, when do you know when it's right to leave the relationship in comparison to like to the extent that it could be fixable?
I think it's similar to the advice you gave earlier, right? Okay. Where you're like, it's interesting, right? So there are kind of metrics that are used for this, especially in more like adult relationships, where it's like, I think the Gottmans came up with a 5-to-1 ratio, where it's like, for having one negative interaction for every 5 positive interactions, right? In a like relatively healthy or pretty good dynamic, right? So what that means is that, sure, like bad things happen, fights happen, and it's hard for the two of you, but most of the time that you spend together is actually pretty positive and rewarding or comforting or calm or nice, whatever you want to say it is, right? So I think that's a pretty good ratio, right?
Yeah. I feel like people forget that a lot also because a couple will like get into the argument and then the next day the partner will do something like a romantic gesture, like get flowers or just like talk to them about it, and then they tend to forget like the bad thing that they did in the argument, and then it'll be like a consistent like cycle.
Yeah, for sure. But that's not, if you're able to let something go and let it live in the past, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you don't need to be holding on to that.
Yeah, but like also it'll be like they will constantly be like not a good partner, and then they will just do things to make it up. Or like let's say like for example like buying something. Like every time he gets in an argument, he'll like buy her flowers. Then he'll be like, "Oh, but like he got me flowers."
Okay.
I don't know where I'm going with it.
So what you're saying is like she shouldn't stay just because he got her flowers.
Yeah, but like why does that happen? Like why do they like forget about like everything, like the bad things that they've done just because they had did a good gesture?
Let me ask you this. If you really like somebody and you really, really want it to work and, you've been like obsessing over this, or not obsessing, but like you've really been into this person, and then you start to realize there are issues, but then they like show up and promise it'll all get better. Like, wouldn't a part of you really want to believe that that's true?
Yeah, I would want to believe it. But also, if they're not able to keep up with their word, then I wouldn't want to continue putting myself through that, because then it just becomes false promises, and I would just know that like their words are not consistent. And if like it keeps getting to like my head like that, then I'm just not gonna want to like put up with it in the end of it. Like I'll start like believing it at first, and we'll give them the chances to improve on their behavior. But like if there's no change, if there's no shift, then I just know like the words are empty. There's no meaning behind them.
And I think that's a very healthy approach, right? And I love to hear it, but I think it can be sometimes when we want something really badly, whether it's an attachment with someone, a relationship, we idolize somebody, we become really good at convincing ourselves that the things that are happening for some other reason, or justifying those things, or not even letting them sink in. Like we become really good at rejecting information that doesn't align with our pre-existing desires and beliefs.
Oh, confirmation bias. Psychology. Hello, welcome to it. I've been so into that shit lately anyway.
So I think, a person who does the switch, there's a lot of complexity and a lot of things that are going on with them internally, right? And they're trying to figure out their wants and desires, and how to show up in relationships. And due to whatever is going on internally, they will be using a lot of maybe negative tactics, like manipulation tactics or lying or whatever, to enter relationships with people, right? And they will maybe take advantage of them or put them in situations where, goes beyond their boundaries or things that they're not comfortable with. And they do this usually because they don't know how else to show up in a relationship or how to be accepted. However, they usually also know that that side of themselves is not initially going to be accepted because it is stepping over people's toes or it is stepping on their boundaries. So they present differently.
So they don't actually like know what they're doing wrong.
I think to some degree they know that the other person wouldn't like it and they know that it's maybe wrong.
But they don't know better.
But they don't know how else to show up. And I think there's usually what's lacking is introspection in terms of like how to get their needs properly met. And so they can lean on using other people in whatever way they see fit.
Okay, so moral of the story, do self-coaching with Jola to improve.
Wow. I can't even market myself that well.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. So based off of all that we're talking about and the like gradual of going to toxicity, from the niceness and like the beauty of it all in the beginning, what are the like signs that it's gonna go like downhill? Like, are there any like defining signs from and within all this sweetness that's kind of looks at that he's toxic?
So okay, so when you enter a more secure relationship with someone, there tends to be a process, right?
Okay.
And I think we've talked about this before where
Guys, she's about to eat this up. Okay, anyways.
Wow, my number one fan. Anyway, so usually it's called the attunement process. And so and I think you'll remember we had this conversation, right? So what that means is that, you and I spend time together. I ask you to do something for me. You ask me to do something for you. We connect. And through that process, I learn if I can rely on you. Like, for example, even if we just decide to meet up somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the attunement process. So
this shit was so interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So for example,
a guitar.
I guess so. Okay, you're tuning into each other. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So you're like adjusting.
But yes, and so this process is very, very necessary to essentially build a stable relationship. So if we say we're going to meet up at a certain time and then you and I both show up, I know that from like a time perspective, I can rely on you. If I share a secret with you and you keep it, I know that I can rely on you in that way, right? So all these little clues help me learn about to what extent I can rely on you and trust you. It helps me build comfortability with you. I learn more about your values, et cetera, et cetera. And I also learn about how you process the world so I can attune to your emotional experience.
Yeah. I just want to say this also applies in friendships a lot too. And there's some people that skip the attuning process. Is so that what it's called? Yeah. And they will just immediately go into the like, oh my God, like I love you, like, and whatever, and be super friendly, which could be very thrown off. Why is that? Why do some people skip the attuning process?
So people who tend to skip the attunement process will have maybe like an anxious attachment style. Or maybe they'll even have an avoidant attachment style or disorganized. So it depends. So they won't usually be in a secure space, which is why they skip it. And so you're saying like, okay, what are some signs to watch out for? Well, this is why a lot of people will flat out say, well, like watch out for love bombing, right? Because there's no reason why somebody who hasn't gotten to know you and built so much comfortability with you and gotten to know your values and who you are and your emotional experience and how you respond to the world. I know you have something to say, but there's no reason.
Guys, she's ready to speak. Everyone.
This is like the older sibling thing. Why they should just all of a sudden believe that they love you without having had that experience to attune with you. Usually that's a sign that they are not building this relationship from a very secure space.
Yeah. Honestly, you know why I fall for love bombing and why I'm actually like the biggest victim of love bombing? Because I love me so much that I'm fully convinced that someone else can love me within 2 days.
There's a lot to unpack there.
This is why I don't have a boyfriend. Let's talk about it. Hit me up. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. Anyways, yeah. But no, a lot of people do think that though. They're like, they become such victims to it because they will genuinely believe that. And I feel for them.
I'm really great. So therefore, of course, they love me right away.
Self-love.
But the other thing is that are they doing things because they know you or are they just doing like these average things and giving these empty compliments? So I think you're right to some degree, but maybe you really want to hear those compliments. Maybe it feels really good for you to, and this is the part where you shouldn't talk about yourself on the podcast.
Oh shit.
Maybe it feels really good to receive that because you actually rely on that, and that's such a big part of your identity. Versus like if you were feeling really good and secure within yourself, you take a moment to be like, okay, that's sweet, but wait a second, like that's kind of really empty, and there's no depth there in terms of them knowing me or complimenting me on things that they've gotten to know about me.
Okay. I'm gonna cry now. No, I'm kidding.
But like how is it for you to hear that?
For me to hear, like, well, okay, I can kind of understand it, especially if it is so early and there's just like no depth within like the compliment, or it's just like so much. It's like, you don't know me. You don't know who I am. Like, like love the compliments. Thank you for like boosting my ego truly. But it just doesn't like make sense in a way. So like to an extent, like I will start like catching it on and be like, okay, like this is kind of wonky.
Yeah.
And then I'll be able to like call it out, or like if it's so early, it doesn't even matter. You know, the casual little ghost will do the trick sometimes.
Yeah, that's a different topic for another day. About the
join our second episode if you want to get to know someone ghosting.
But no, I think you're onto something. Like, I think maybe it can feel nice initially, and that's what speaks to what you said, where like, yeah, I like myself so much, it's so great to receive this. Mm-hmm. Sure, right? Maybe it reflects on how you feel about you. Maybe it just is nice to receive it. But I think without them really being invested in who you are as a person, it should eventually feel empty. It should eventually feel a little bit like something's amiss. And that, you know, a person who is secure within themselves has the space to wonder about where somebody else is coming from, right? And wonder, you know, what that connection piece really feels like. Whereas when that security is lacking, they tend to fill all of that stuff that is missing with themselves. It's a lot of self-projection, right? Like they think they're great because they're the ones that's constantly engaging them.
Self-projection also with like cheating and whatnot. It's like if one partner is like, oh, you're with like other people that you shouldn't be, or like, oh, like I want to see your phone, and all this like controllingness, and then they tend to get controlling because they are projecting.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. And that fucking sucks.
It's a combination of things. Sometimes there's jealousy in there too. And I think there's two ways to interpret jealousy, or more than two ways, obviously. But like to simplify. And one of them is that jealousy shows up because it lets you know that, oh, like I really want this to work out. I really like this person. I want to be important to them. And so jealousy comes up. But sometimes, of course, there is also insecurity attached to it, which is like, you know, what if I'm not good enough? And so they are going to find somebody else. And so because that belief in self is so low, they can be more reactive. There's also another side to it, which is like if you act a certain way and if you are talking to people in a certain way, you're also going to believe that other people are doing the same thing.
How does one get over insecurity in a relationship?
Girl.
Oh. Guys. This is a long journey.
Yes. There is therapy for that. There's coaching for that. There's counseling for that. There's
there's
personal
coaching for
growth
that.
for that. There's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of being in relationships with people who genuinely care about you. It can help you rewrite that negative self-script or self-talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. Back to the toxicity in relationships. Like, after we've distinguished that, like, it's toxic, like, it's no longer good, yada, yada, how do you leave it? And, like, what do you do to leave it?
Okay, actually, so
great question. Okay. Oh my God, guys, I asked a good question.
You know why? Because I'm going to turn it right back around on you. And this is good segue.
No.
Good segue. All right, so for you, I wanted to know, how do you make sense of having to end a relationship when you're really into someone? Because you do have some experience with this.
Oh, having to end, like when you're into them, but like you have to end it.
Yeah. How have you come to terms with that in the past?
Okay. So, yeah, there's been times where I'll be genuinely really into a guy, and then I just know that, like, let's say there's something that he's absolutely lacking, and it is a deal breaker for me. And I would go and I'll communicate with him multiple times, and it's just not getting fixed. And this thing is a deal breaker for me. Then I just know that like I am going to have to end it and come to terms with that, even if I am into someone, because it's just not aligning with the things that I am looking for in a relationship. So I just have to come to terms with the fact that I need someone that provides those things. And like, I need to look for that because it's just a really big deal for me. Even if I'm into them, I know that like I could end up getting over it.
Okay, because you're not getting certain needs met?
Yeah, because I'm like, if I'm not getting certain needs met that like I need and that I've communicated it and there's just no fixing or no accommodating or no negotiation about that, and it's just not happening whatsoever, then like, yeah, it gets to a point where you have to break it off because there's no improving.
Girl, that is wise beyond your years. Let me just
Oh.
say.
Oh
We're not
my
disclosing
God,
the
guys.
years, but like, damn. Couldn't have been me though. Not at that time. How have you been able to identify your needs? Like, how do you know what's really important to you and that they're not able to rise to?
I think the fulfillment. I feel like if there's just like an emptiness in the void,
Challenging you here. How do
Okay.
you identify fulfillment?
because it feels empty. And like,
What does full feel like?
full feels like you have everything, and that like it just feels good for you, and you know that you're in the right spot, and you feel like safe.
Safe?
And if there's like a loss of that safeness and you're always like wondering like what's going on, and then there's just a lack of that from the other person, then like you no longer feel safe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm hearing you identify safe as you're not constantly in a space of wondering what's going on and really like doubting yourself. So I'm hearing you identify safe as being able to kind of feel secure and be
Yeah.
able to address
'Cause-
your partner with whatever is happening day to day or is going on.
Because I feel like in a healthy relationship you need to feel safe with your partner.
No, I totally agree.
Oh my God, we're so wise.
You're
Like
so wise.
owls.
I'm so impressed.
Oh my God,
What the fuck?
get out of here. Guys, I'm not wise. They're all going to shun me. They're going to be like, ugh. She thinks she's above her years. Oh my God.
No, it's this doubt in yourself right now that tells your years, but outside of that,
Guys, if you're experiencing self-doubt, don't fear to go hit up Yola's. The link in the bio.
never have I ever been able to promote myself. I suck at that so much.
If any companies are interested in a marketing, feel free to reach out. My DMs are always open.
Your DMs.
Marketing, hello. I've been doing the marketing here.
You're right. She's going to be our PR communications marketing girly.
Guys, okay, this isn't about me.
All right. No, that was really interesting. I love that. I love that answer. So in situations where the relationship has ended,
Okay.
in either circumstance, how were you able to get over it, and what helped?
Oh my God. Okay. This is the most like basic answer ever. 2 ways. First of all, time will heal. I know how corny that sounds, but genuinely from the bottom of my heart, it is time.
Okay,
But also, not just time. You need to cut off contact, because if you are continuously talking to them after the relationship, you're not going to get over it. And then no time will heal because you're not spending time like getting over it. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now you can speak.
Okay. So I was going to add something, but I think your next comment kind of to some degree spoke to that.
Yes. That's why I made turkey noises.
Thank you. Can I just say I can't believe we're actually doing this, but all right. I think part of the reason that it feels like time heals is because you continue to grow within that space, and so that loss, as you grow as a person, becomes more manageable, right?
Yes.
And so I think the second thing that you said, where like maybe you cut off contact or whatever, I think it's one of those methods where it's not just time passing, but it's your intentionality about it, right? Like where you are shifting focus from that
Yes.
relationship into yourself.
Mindset. It's also a lot about the mindset where you just have to like, cannot like be in your head about, oh, maybe we'll get back together. Maybe it's temporary. Because if you have that stuck in your head, then you will have hope. You will have false hope, and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to get over that relationship. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to move on, and you're stuck in a loop and a cycle. Even worse, if you are still in contact, don't have contact.
I love your advice. I love it.
Oh my God.
You're such a cutie patootie. Can I just say, this reminds me of when I was going through some shit. Okay. And I was trying to get over something.
Yeah.
And you were like a teeny tiny baby. I think you were like, what,
Guys,
13?
we have an 11-year age gap.
Yeah, at the time, I think you were like 13, 14. You were just so itty bitty. And I remember like crying to you to some degree, but not much because you were so little. There wasn't much I could disclose. But regardless, being like, oh, do you think it'll get better? Like, what do you think? And you flat out said to me, you're like, Jola, like you just, no, it's not going to come back. It's not going to get better. He's not going to come back. Like, you need to get over it. You need to stop. You need to close this chapter and move on. Pretty much those words at 14.
Oh my God.
Like,
God, so what?
And of course, it helped. Like, the reality of that helped, especially coming from somebody so young.
I clocked her. And bitch, get the fuck out. Oh, fuck. Oh,
get over it.
Get over it.
Yeah, get it together. And it helped because I shifted focus from really needing that closure, wanting that closure, why was this happening, et cetera, to actually making up my mind and then slowly giving myself that closure.
It's all about the mindset. All about the mindset.
You sound like a podcast bro right now.
It's all in here, dudes. All about the mindset. So this is an ASMR channel. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, wait.
Oh, she has more.
I have more.
We're not done. Oh no, I'm getting grilled now. This is my turn. Okay.
So leading up to that or after that, what perspective have you gained since that you apply going forward? So after those experiences, don't look at that. Don't you spoil it.
I can't even see. I need to get my prescription up. Hello.
For those of you that are listening,
Okay.
I just want you to be aware that she's wearing glasses where one of the eyepieces is missing.
Actually,
As mom called me today. You should know this. Mom called me today. She says that they're still late. So just so
Are you serious? I'm supposed to get new glasses, and I genuinely love them so much, and I'm so upset. They're so late.
Anyway, move on.
The perspective I have gained from like what? From after
From
the
having
relationship?
been in relationships and having, really been dedicated to them and then having to leave them or get over them or whatever it is.
Okay. When a relationship would end, the most natural thing to do is to hate them. And that makes a lot of sense because you went from loving the person and now they're gone and they're out of their life. So you find many excuses to hate them. And a lot of the time things do go wrong. And maybe you have a valid reason to hate them because that is one of the best ways to get over them. And it's natural. And it's even harder when it ends on good terms. And it is a totally natural process to hate them. What I've learned is how you know that you're really over them is that you don't hate them anymore. You've just accepted that your time was your time and you just respect the relationship and what you learned from it, and you don't have this hatred for them anymore.
Bro, as you were talking, I was like tracing my finger down my face as like a tear dropped by. That was really poetic.
Oh my God, get out.
I'm serious. No, I think it's so true. I think knowing that you're really past something is when you go from that really raw emotion to a place where you're almost indifferent or it doesn't impact you as deeply.
Yeah, you come to an acceptance.
Yeah. That was beautiful. Wow.
And then she pulls out her phone to grill me with more questions.
You know you love it. You like to talk about yourself.
I do.
We share that in common, in fact.
Oh my God.
All right. This one's a good one. When your friends come to you for advice about someone treating them poorly, how do you usually approach it?
Wake up and break up. No, I'm kidding. No. Okay. So when they come to me for advice on their like relationships,
On anything. So like
And-
maybe
or,
a
like-
friend or like something.
Okay.
Like how do you, like when somebody is being vulnerable with you, especially a friend, because I know you love your girlfriends, like even your guy friends, like how
Sometimes.
how do you like? What's the energy you bring into that? How do you approach it?
A lot of the time, so sometimes it depends. Some of my friends are actually looking to hear advice, and within that, I'll give them that. But a lot of the time, all they want is to be heard. They want someone to hear them and to listen to them. And sometimes that's all you really need to do. You just need to let them talk and speak freely, because a lot of people don't have that in their lives. So I just want to like offer that to my friends and let them know that like they can vent all they want. And then I'll ask some like questions to further their venting, because a lot of the time they just want someone to hear them.
Bitch, have you been watching my reels?
No, I skipped that.
She does actually. When I pop up, I can hear myself as you're watching TikTok or Instagram, and then they pop up, and I'll hear myself for a split second before it goes next.
I'm supportive, I swear.
Okay, what about?
There's more.
There is more.
Guys, like,
what about if they seem resistive to your input or your advice or things that you think you would like them to know? Like, what do you find helps, or what do you do then?
at the end of the day, because here's the thing, I'm very resistive to people's advice.
You? Why?
Me, yeah. Because I don't like to listen. I just literally like to do my own thing. Like, I will ask for the advice.
Every teenager ever.
Yeah, I will ask for the advice because I want to know someone else's input. But, like, at the end of the day, I'm going to want to do what I want to do. And even if my friends don't take my advice, that's completely fine. They can learn and make their own mistakes. And then that's how they learn, and they know not to do it again.
Do you think people really learn not to do it again?
It depends. Sometimes they learn not to do it again. Sometimes they keep doing it again. Sometimes you really need to put the brakes in and just grab their phone and make her block him. But
actually, I was thinking about another friend of yours.
Oh God.
The one that you describe as the little devil on your shoulder, not to.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about it.
Does that one learn not to do it again?
No, he does not. He will keep on doing it again. But at that point, there's literally only so much you can do. However, I have helped him a little bit.
You've helped him a lot, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I've helped him a lot. To kind of like grow and make like proper decisions. Yeah, but he's still a dumbass.
But so that's exactly what I'm inquiring about. Like, how did you get to that point of helping him, knowing that he struggles with A, taking in input from other people, or B, actually learning from his own experience?
Like, I ask him if he wants to improve. I say, do you want like the best alternative out of this scenario? Do you want to overcome this? Mm-hmm. And he'll go like, yes, homie, please.
So essentially you find them when they're weak and vulnerable.
Exactly. And then I'm like, okay, if you want happiness, then you should probably do this. You should probably take this approach, or you're going to be in this same cycle, in this same toxicity, and you're going to, like, it will be endless suffering. And then eventually when they realize and come to the terms that what they're doing is a cycle, and they want to be happy, then they will start to either A, learn from themselves, or B, take my advice.
I was sitting here admiring your advice, and I was about to be like, wow, so essentially you're creating space for people and like say something to follow up, but I like the way you ended that. Or B, take my advice.
Take my advice. The better way.
Do we need a closer for this shit?
I don't know. Or do we just close it and say,
until next time?
Oh shit.
That is now the closer.